Hey everybody, today is Wednesday, December the 9th, 2020. We're going to be learning today to use a new property. We've talked about commutative property of multiplication and addition. We've used associative property of addition and multiplication where we're changing the grouping. We've talked about the identity property of multiplication and addition and the zero property of multiplication. So today we're going to be learning something called distributive property. Now, in the years past, this property has been one that will allow us to break multiplication factors down to smaller factors that we already know and then put them back together to help us solve them. So today we're going to be learning how to use that distributive property to make it easier for us to multiply. So we're going to start out with our question that we're going to be focusing on. How can the distributive property help you break apart an array to multiply with other facts? Now, we're not only going to be breaking apart an array, but we're going to be looking at a number sentence or a multiplication sentence or equation we're going to be able to break apart as well. And there's choices that you get to make here. You don't have to break the same numbers down that I do. What might be easy for me to multiply may not be as easy for you, or whatever might be easy for you may not be easy for me. So we get choices here when we're using the distributive property, which makes me extremely happy. Our lesson objective for today is we will be learning to use the distributive property to simplify multiplication facts or multiplication problems by breaking apart large arrays that represent multiplication facts into smaller arrays that represent other multiplication facts. Now, that was a lot of words and a little bit of jumbling up of words, but I'm going to show you how to do that process today in this video. The word simplify means to make things easier to solve. So we're going to simplify it in a way that it will make the problem easier to solve, especially when our multiplication arrays are larger. As with any learning for me, I want there to be a purpose for why I'm learning it. So we already have learned how to use arrays to model multiplication facts. Today, we're going to continue to use to learn how to break apart an array that represents a multiplication fact into two smaller arrays that represent two other multiplication facts. And then once we get the answers to those, we can put them back together. We want to simplify it to make us able to understand it a little bit better and to solve it a little bit easier. So we're going to be doing that today, and our very first problem looks like this. It says, do you see any other arrays in the array shown? Can you break apart that array into two other arrays? So I want you to pause your video, take a look at this array, and come up with some ideas of how you can break this array into two different arrays. So pause your video now, take a look at it, and then we will discuss it. So let's think about some ways that we could look at this to get an idea of how to break it apart. Now, there's not only one way to break this array apart. I'm going to show you one example first that will let you break this array apart. I'm going to come up here and get my scribble line so that I can draw a circle to break these two arrays apart. So I'm going to write a multiplication fact for this array and this array. So in this particular part, I can write 2 rows. So that's going to be 2 times, and then in that row I have 4. And if we look at that particular array, I can just count how many is in that circle to get 8. So the answer to 2 times 4 is 8. I can also do another multiplication sentence for this array. And as I look down through here, I see 3, and then I see 4 in each of the 3 rows. So my multiplication fact is going to be 3 times 4 equals 12. Now, I can use my knowledge of those two facts, and put those two answers together to get 8 plus 12 equals 20. So now I can just add those two together to get the answer for the whole array. for this particular array here. So the original array was actually 5 times 4. Oops, sorry about that. 5 times 4 equals 20. So we can break them apart to make it easier for us. Now, what I want to show you is another way that this array could have been broken apart. That isn't the only way that we could break this array apart. So let me show you one more way that you could use to break this array into two parts. So I'm going to get my scribble tool again to show you that we could have also, oops, not going to do it that way though, that we could have also broke this array into a section like this to get two different arrays. So my first array is 5 times 2. So I have the first array as 5 times 2. I also know that the second array is also going to be 5 times 2. And my answer to 5 times 2 equals 10. And then I'm simply going to come down and put my answer to those two multiplication problems together to get 10 plus 10 equals 20. Now, I also want you to recognize that we have 5 rows and 2 in each column in the two different arrays that we broke up. But the original array, again, was 5 times 4. So what we're going to try to do is make things easier. Sometimes when we're multiplying by larger numbers or a larger array, we want to break it into more simplified numbers for us that we can solve easily. So let's take one look at it one more before we go. And I wanted to ask you before, what traditions, I know that you've been studying traditions in social studies, what traditions does your family have at Christmas time? Now, I told you the other day that one of my traditions with my family is to make everybody a new ornament every year, have a new ornament made. I have more traditions as well. One of the traditions that I do is I always wrap everybody's gift. They have different paper that suits their personality. So my oldest son loves to deer hunt, and I always make sure that his paper relates to deer hunting. My youngest son loves old cars, so I try to do something with old cars or old trucks on there. So my tradition is that. So I'm in the comments in the lesson work that you turn in. I want you to put, what tradition do you have at Christmas time? Or give me one of them. You don't need to give me multiple. Just give me one tradition that you always do at Christmas time. All right, for this particular problem, it says that Maria wants to set up 7 rows and 4 chairs for a meeting. She wants to know how many chairs are needed, but does not know the product of 7 times 4. So this young lady does not know the basic multiplication fact of 7 times 4. So at this point, it's going to allow you to decide how you want to break this problem up. Now, for me, I think breaking up 7 would be the easiest. But some people may say break up 4 into two twos, which will allow you to multiply that times 7. But I think that this is a problem where you can choose what works best for you. So for me, I'm going to break up the number 7. So I'm going to break 7 up, and I'm going to write a new fact for me to do in this particular problem. So I'm going to break 7 up into 4 and 3. So I'm going to do 3 times 4, which is going to keep the 4 staying the same, plus, then I'm going to go ahead and do my plus sign here, plus 4 times, oops, 4 times 4. Now, you see that I'm keeping this 4 the same, but I broke up that 7 into 4 and 3. because 4 plus 3 equals 7. Now I can get the answers to those basic facts to help me solve this problem. And again, it's totally up to you how you want to break these up. But I know that 4 times 3 is 12, and I know that 4 times 4 is 16. And I can add those together by place value. So 2 tens equal 20, plus 2 more equals 22, plus 6 more equals 28. So the answer to this particular problem would be 28 chairs. So again, if I looked at this array, I'm going to be breaking it down into, and I'm going to go ahead and draw it around. 3 times 4 is one of my arrays, and then I'm going to have another array that is 4 times 4. So you can see how this sentence relates to the way I broke the array up. That's all for our video today. Remember to go complete the problem of the day, your homework assignment, and then click turn in when you have everything completed. I hope everybody has an awesome day. See you soon.